Greetings, honorific and dear fellow Earthlings. My video today is titled, Can Putin Avoid Being the Biggest Fool of the 21st Century? I think all people on Earth should come to find a way for Putin. How to end the Russian-Ukrainian war as soon as possible is Putin's not stupid choice. Because the Russian-Ukrainian war has not only brought deep disasters and tragedies to the people of Ukraine and Russia, but has also brought misfortune and scourges to the people of many other countries, and has even posed a great danger to the whole world. The content of this video is my personal suggestion. Please ask all fellow Earthlings to comment on it. Here is the text. There are at least two types of heroes in human society, those who succeed and those who fail. The hero who fails is the hero who can stop the damage in time. The hero who fails is the hero who can choose among the many possibilities of failure the one that minimizes the damage to himself and to the society in order to avoid the worst possible outcome for the society and for himself. Why can a person be called a hero when he fails? There are at least two reasons. 1. Failed heroes are able to stop the war in order to minimize more and more social losses, especially in order to minimize more casualties. 2. Failed heroes can do what most people cannot do, to be able to bravely admit that they have made a big mistake, to be able to bravely admit that they have failed, to be able to transcend such low-level human weaknesses as saving face to death or refusing to admit his mistake. For example, Gaddafi could have been a failed hero, but instead he became the most tragic negative man. As all the people of the world probably know, President Putin has always had a big hero complex in his heart. He wants to become a great hero of the Russia, and thus a great hero in the history of mankind. By all accounts, Putin is unlikely to become a successful hero in his lifetime, but there is still the possibility of becoming a failed hero by immediately stopping the Russian-Ukrainian war and unconditionally withdrawing Russian troops from Ukraine. Then, do what President Yeltsin did back then. Choose someone to take over your presidency, and the only condition for handing over the presidency is this: demand that the first thing the next president does upon taking office is to pardon the previous president of all charges. At the same time, NATO and the United States can treat the initiators of the Russo-Ukrainian War in the same way that the United States treated the initiators of the Civil War in 1865. In that case, Putin could become the first world-class hero of failure in human history. While such an outcome is something Putin would very much prefer not to have, it is much better than getting what happened to Hitler, Mussolini, Ceausescu, Saddam, and Gaddafi. More importantly, Putin can spend the rest of his life looking back and reflecting on his life, especially seriously thinking about what mistakes and felonies he has committed during his more than 2 decades in power. Think about the internal and external reasons for his big mistakes and his suggestions for the future of mankind. Perhaps Putin's retrospect and reflection will become a very valuable intellectual treasure in the history of mankind. Why do I make these recommendations? It is based on what I would like to say to President Putin. President Vladimir Putin, for more than 2 decades, I have been very attentive to all the information concerning you. However, ever since you became president in different ways, and some of your opponents died abnormally, especially after you launched the war in Ukraine, my views on you have undergone a qualitative change, from initial admiration and great love to later disgust and contempt. In my opinion, you are a typical representative who has fallen from a hero admired by countless people to a person who is hated by countless people. The greatest ignorance is not knowing that you have ignorant or not willing to admit that you have ignorant. The reason why you ended up in such a tragic situation today, all because you made the biggest ignorance mistake of mankind. You do not know that your views on Russia and the world situation are only the result of a blind man touching an elephant, and that although there may be a certain degree of factual basis and reasoning for each of your views, behind each of them there may be a huge ignorance, prejudice, or mistake that you do not know. For example, it now seems that your grandiose statement of "give me 20 years and I will give you back a strong Russia" implies great ignorance, prejudice, and mistakes. You could not have made such a mistake, but you wanted to be a lone hero. You wanted to be a great figure in the history of Russia. You were obsessed with power. You thought you had extraordinary skills and could make Russia strong again. You believe that you will succeed. You forget that you are just an ordinary person. You take your own blind man's view of the elephant as absolutely correct, and you set yourself on a path of inevitable failure. Your initiation of the Ukrainian war was not only a fatal mistake, but also a serious crime, the greatest felony of mankind. One of the most graphic analogies about the absurdity of the Russo-Ukrainian war is Russia and Ukraine are like a divorced couple who no longer have any relationship with each other, and then suddenly the ex-husband goes to his ex-wife's house and kills and injures many people on the grounds that she is getting ready to get married, and that this poses a threat to ex-husband's safety. Is such behavior not absurd? Is it not a serious crime? President Putin, you are the biggest failure who could have helped Russia on the path to true democracy, but instead thought that an authoritarian dictatorship could make a country strong. And from now on, you will be the biggest warning to all the leaders of countries who still want to follow the path of authoritarian dictatorship. President Vladimir Putin, you are now faced with three different choices, the first two of which are stupid and the last of which is smart and wise. 1. Never hope that Russia can win this war between Russia and Ukraine. You are at war with dozens of countries now, and in economy and technology, Russia doesn't have any advantage, and you still want to win? There were 3 allies who fought with Hitler in those days. You don't even have an ally to fight alongside you now, and if you really want to win the Russo-Ukrainian war, it shows a serious flaw in your judgment and intelligence. 2. If you are a smart person, I think you already know, starting the Russian-Ukrainian war is the biggest mistake of your life. If you really realize that you are wrong, then you should not be so stupid as to insist on it. Now the whole world knows. You are trying to save face and prove to the world that you are not wrong. In 2011, Gaddafi was probably thinking the same thing. History has left Gaddafi with the image of a fool who could not admit his mistakes and could not stop the damage in time. Don't think that you are any different from Gaddafi. If you continue to insist, history may give you a worse judgment than Gaddafi. Stop scaring people by starting a nuclear war, because then it is very likely that just before you are ready to start a nuclear war, you will be killed by the people around you. The reason is very simple. Once you are ready to launch a nuclear war that indicates you would have been an outlaw and you have been desperate for your life and you don't want to live, you frantically hope to turn all the people on earth into your funerary objects. The problem is that the people around you want to live. When the people around you realize that you want to make them the funerary objects of your folly, any one of them can kill you at any time. 3. If you are a smart person, you have one last chance to be a hero, although this hero is not a triumphant general who returns home victorious. Rather, it is a hero who recognizes that he has made a big mistake, but stops his losses in time. Specific practices, see the beginning of this video for details. It is necessary to believe that for a leader of a country who knows he is wrong, to correct the error or stop the error, the way can always be found. Not only can find the steps down, and may even make their own final realization of the rotten into the magic. If you are really a smart person, show your smartness in this area. I think that if a leader of a country can openly admit his mistakes and make amends, it is possible for the majority of people to forgive him. The reason why many countries do not impose the death penalty on murderers is that a civilized society should not put all the blame for a person's murder on the murderer, and that imperfect societies also have to bear some responsibility. By the same token, Most people will know that Putin's current ignorance mistakes are caused by the fact that human beings are still in the barbaric era and the chaotic environment in which human beings have no majority consensus on many important issues. Therefore, as long as you admit your mistakes and stop losses in time, you may be forgiven. So far, all of Putin's mistakes have been mistakes of ignorance. But when someone points out the reasons for Putin's big mistakes and how to solve them, and Putin continues to think that he is not at fault, and continues to send tens of thousands of innocent young people to die on the battlefield, then the reason for Putin's big mistakes is no longer ignorance, but extreme stupidity. Choose to be a failed hero, or choose to be the biggest fool of the 21st century with a tragic end. Putin has little time to make the choice. Honorable and beloved fellow Earthlings, in your opinion, is the proposal presented in this video feasible for President Putin? Is it the best of all possible options? If not, what is your advice? Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you all.